Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Darin and I'm here with my review of Ride by Milestone for the PS4. Ride's going to be available in the States here late June, already available in Europe, and already available on the PC via Steam for $39.95. Going to retail for about $60 here in the States. Also available for just about every other platform: Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS3, and like I mentioned, the PC and the PS4. So I mentioned in my first look that this is like a Gran Turismo or Forza, but for motorcycles. And that's exactly what it is. Or if you remember Tourist Trophy on the PS2, it's really similar to that, except in Tourist Trophy, and Tourist Trophy, by the way, was developed by Polyphony, the makers of Gran Turismo. But you couldn't customize the bikes like you can in Ride, or you can customize cars in Forza or Gran Turismo. But it is really similar to where you're riding a bunch of different street bikes, even up to race bikes. So as a matter of fact, stay tuned to the end, and I'm gonna show you, I booted up Tourist Trophy, I'm gonna show you a comparison of the two and let you know if Ride is better than or has far surpassed it, considering we're 2 generations away as far as consoles or platforms go. So is it Simcade, or arcade? I'd say this falls right in the middle at Simcade. Sim style physics. It's got some real world tracks, also has some fantasy tracks, also has some arcade style career modes and stuff like that. No damage, and you can't run real races. So it's I would definitely say Simcade, and I'd say it's right down the middle. Again, it's because of the physics and the handling that really adds that simulation aspect to it. There's tons of bikes to choose from just about every manufacturer: Aprilia, Ducati, Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and a lot more. Then you can get everything from naked street bikes under 700 cc's up to full-blown GP style bikes. And that also includes a variety of historic bikes as well. There's 15 tracks, some fantasy, some real, and they're all modeled very nicely. A lot of them have up to 3 different configurations too, so it's actually more than 15 different layouts. There's 7 real GP tracks, 5 country tracks, 2 city tracks, and 1 extra track that consists of, basically it's called the Salt Flats, and it's just a drag strip where it's about 1.25 miles long, or 2,000 meters, and you just drag race on it. Once you've configured your rider and picked your first bike, at the main menu you have the option of World Tour, Quick Mode, Online, My Rider, and Options. From the Options menu you can remap controls, reconfigure your HUD, adjust gamma and sounds, auto-sync options, and the credits. First thing I did was go to the sounds and adjusted the race music to 0 and the menu music to 0, because that turns the music off during replays, and I'd honestly rather listen to the bikes versus music playing. Music wasn't bad though. As far as the controls, you can remap everything, but I just went with the default because I got used to running it that way, and it worked great. If you haven't purchased any bikes yet, Quick Mode can put you at any track with a variety of rental bikes. Or if you have purchased bikes, you can run any of the bikes that you own. And you can run up to 10 lap races in that Quick Mode. In most of the events throughout Ride, there's 15 AI riders that you race against, with the exception of the drag racing mode. There's a track day mode, and then head-to-head challenges. And then online, there's only 12 riders. And then split screen, there's only 6 total riders. So you and a friend plus 4 AI bikes. In that Quick Mode, you can also do that split screen racing I just mentioned and time trialing, or if you're just getting started, you can run through the tutorial again. So if you go back to the main menu and select World Tour, you then have the World Tour events, Elite Trophies, My Bikes, Customized Bike, Dealership, My Rider, and Teammates. You can fully customize your bike and rider down to the knee sliders, and yes, I picked a female rider because she's honestly easier on the eyes. To race online, you're going to need a PlayStation Plus account, or they offer you a 2-day trial that you can check things out with. Otherwise, you got to get the full PlayStation Plus membership if you don't already have it. The online lobbies on the PS4 had quite a bit of action going on, and again, this is only European riders, I guess you could say, since it's not available in the US yet, unless somebody purchased a PS4 version outside the States, and it is compatible with your PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4s are region free, so you can get one from Europe if you don't want to wait till June. Again, I mentioned online races are limited to 12 riders, and then the field will be filled out with AI riders. So let's go back to the World Tour events, and you have 8 options once you select the World Tour. Naked Bikes Middleweight, Naked Heavyweight, Super Sports, Historic, Modern Superbikes, Pro Circuit, Premium Events, and Open. Then in each category you have sub-options. For instance, in the first one that you can race, Naked Bikes, there's under 700cc, over 700cc, 2-cylinder, 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder, and World Naked Bikes. Within each of these, there's then subcategories or events that you can run, and there's 5 to 7 events per category. All the races are 3 laps, except for in the Pro mode, there's an endurance subcategory, and those races are 8 laps. And I wouldn't really consider 8 laps endurance, but that's what they're calling it. There's also time attack events, head-to-head at track days, team races where you pick an AI rider, and I mentioned your teammates. You pick an AI rider to be your teammate in that race, and then your combined points win you the particular prize for that event. There's also championships that include multiple races for points, and those races within those championships are just 3 laps as far as I found. For each event, you can gain reputation and credits depending on where you finish. Reputation will let you do things like in the Elite Trophy mode, you can't run any of the Elite Trophy events until you get to the reputation level of 260. And that unlocks the first event. Then you have to finish a bronze or better in the first event and get a reputation of 220 or better to unlock the second event. And there's 8 total Elite Trophy events. And those Elite Trophy events, once you finish them, you win more credits and reputation, and you win a bike.
Choose one of these bikes to receive as a reward. You'll still be able to purchase the other one whenever you want from the bike dealer.
So if I didn't mention, credits will allow you to buy new bikes, buy parts for those bikes, buy gear, helmets. You can trick out your bike, boots, all the way down to your knee pads. You can do all sorts of stuff. Now, before I get to more specifics like physics, graphics, and that kind of stuff, I gotta throw something in here. The loading times on this game on the PS4 are atrocious. Maybe I'm just impatient, or maybe I'm just spoiled with other games, but it takes over a minute just to get to this screen, where then it tells you to advance, and then you click X to advance, and then you have another, 20 seconds before it actually puts you into the event. There is some cards that show you some specs and stats on that particular bike while you're waiting, but man, the loading times are just long. I mean, you can go walk and get a drink, come back, and you still haven't loaded. Now let's get to some specifics, starting with physics. A lot of options to choose from to enhance your experience. If you want a full hardcore racing experience with a huge learning curve, you can turn all the assists off, put it to pro, and honestly, hold on, especially depending on what bike you ride. The naked bikes are obviously a lot easier, but you go up to those pro bikes, man, that thing will flip on you when you get on the gas. You'll get major oversteer coming out of corners. Again, you can adjust a lot of assists. You can do automatic tuck-in. You can do joint brakes, which basically links your front and your rear brake, or you can run them separate. You can do braking assists. You can do wheelie assists, so you can turn low, medium, high on how much that particular bike will wheelie coming out of the corners, coming off the line, that kind of stuff. And then you can adjust the AI. I'll get to the AI in a minute, but lots of different options to adjust. And then you can also adjust the bikes depending on which upgrades you've purchased. So you can adjust suspension components, brakes, all with sliders, nothing major, pretty basic adjustments, but a lot of the adjustments that you see in MotoGP, if you've played a Milestone game, or the MXGP series, very similar to that. And I'd say the physics are fairly realistic. Again, I compared it to Tourist Trophy, and just stepping it up, that's 10 years. Tourist Trophy was developed, looks like in about 2005, released in 2006, and it's a big jump. And I'd say it's pretty hard to model physics on a motorcycle game, considering you have to you have to do the lean, the bikes wheeling, doing stoppies, the tire models, and I think and all the bikes that they have in this game, and I think they've done a pretty good job. Could they do better? Sure, I'm sure they could, but I think considering the size of the Milestone development team and how quickly they're putting out different games, I think they did a great job. And again, comparing it to that 10-year-old Tourist Trophy, I'd say it's leaps and bounds better than Tourist Trophy's physics. Next up, graphics on the PS4 running at 30 frames per second, and I would definitely like to see this running at 60 frames a second. You definitely can see the difference going from a 30 frame per second game to 60 frames per second. So, you know, on the PC, on my initial coverage of Ride, without the frame glitches that I was getting due to my settings, 60 frames definitely is a more fluid, smooth experience. But I have to say, they do a pretty good job of keeping 30 frames a second. And there's some pretty good eye candy and everything's nice and crisp. And again, comparing it to Tourist Trophy, you know, a 10-year-old game, I think they're pretty well done. As good as Drive Club? No. But I think Milestone did a pretty good job on the graphics. Another thing on graphics before I move on, there's basically 5 different views that you can ride from. 3 on the bike, 1 at the front of the bike basically, and then 2 chase views. And I just mainly have been riding in the chase view just because I just have more visibility. It's easier for me to tell what the bike is doing. You know, I don't play motorcycle racing games as much as I do car driving or car racing games. So I'm used to driving in the cockpit, you know, on the car side, but doing it on a bike, and I rode a bike for years. I had my own bike, and so I know what it's like to ride a motorcycle at a pretty good click too. I've gone to track days and did tons of canyon riding, so you know, I've ridden at pretty extreme levels on a bike. But on a bike, you can feel everything, and you're leaning with the bike. So, and when you're really riding, but you know, it's just for me playing with a gamepad, I prefer that exterior view. But they have some, back to the graphics, they have some cool views. As far as in the helmet cam, you know, sitting in front of the helmet where you see the bars and the gauges and stuff. So next up, going to go to the feedback and controls. Again, you can remap all your controls to do whatever you want on the gamepad. The feedback rumble effects are very light. I mentioned that in my my first look. It was on the PC. I was using an Xbox 360 controller. On the PS4, I was hoping for more. But pretty light, pretty weak, and you know, I would like to see more coming out of that controller. And I've been saying this for years since we've been reviewing motorcycle games. I would love to have some kind of handlebars. Sure, you're not going to lean with it, but man, it would be cool to have, you know, a clutch and your brake and a throttle and then foot controls. And I know there was a guy that was developing them for the PC, never really came to fruition, but I'd love to see like a Thrustmaster or Logitech or, you know, one of the major wheel developers develop some kind of controls for motorcycle games. I would imagine, based on how many views I get on some of these motorcycle racing games and the fact that they continue to develop them, obviously they're making money on them, so it'd be great if they worked in conjunction with a Thrustmaster or somebody to develop even something basic, you know, for under $200 to at least you have more of a riding experience versus just using the gamepads. Now, for the sounds, they're pretty good. Some bikes sound better than others. Again, another reason why I like riding from that rear chase view is because I can hear the bike better and what it's doing. I did come across a sound glitch at one track where my bike sounds completely disappeared. Actually, here, I'll play a quick clip for you so you can hear what I'm talking about. So if you can hear there, basically my bike sounds were drowned out and I could hear the other bikes. I got like 4 seconds ahead of the other bikes and I could still hear them better than my bikes. That was just a glitch on that one particular track. But overall, I think the sounds are pretty good. I think, again, could they be better? Yeah. I think, again, some bikes sound better than others. But overall, I think they do a pretty good job. Now, I mentioned at the beginning Simcade Arcade simulation, and I talked about the damage. There is no damage in this title, and I would like to see a bike get torn up. I can't remember any motorcycle racing game where your bike gets damaged or even scratched up or your rider gets injured. I mean, and I've gone into guardrails at 150 miles an hour and the dude just gets back on the bike and keeps going. So I would like to see some kind of repercussions for, driving over the limit to where the bike is slowed down or your rider gets hurt. Especially if you're racing online, you want a full hardcore experience. You wanted to maybe create a league. Ride isn't really a title for it because, again, you can only run 10-lap races, but I'd like to see some damage. I'm gonna say the animations, though, when you go flying off the bike or you wreck the bike or you flip it, they are pretty realistic there, but let's get some damage going. Next up, AI, and I think they're pretty damn good and intuitive. I think they do a good job of holding their lines and racing you clean. Didn't have many problems with them, sure, here and there, but honestly, if you race, let's say on iRacing against some rookies, or even go online and race against some people, sometimes the AI is a lot better than what you find online in a console racing title. So I think they did a pretty good job of it. I definitely enjoyed racing against the AI, and I gotta say, it is challenging. I mainly raced on medium, and it was because I wanted to kind of build up some credits so I could buy more bikes and test out more bikes. And so I could finish higher. And even on medium, it was tough, man. I can't even imagine how tough it is on the highest setting, the pro or whatever it is. So AI is very challenging, and it also going to be dependent on how well you know that bike, how well you know that track, and how quick you are just in general. That's going to depend on how well you fare against the AI. And a lot of these tracks, especially the fantasy ones, I was clueless. I was even running with not the full driving line, but the one in the corners to show the braking and stuff, just so I could run a little bit quicker. Another thing too with motorcycle racing games is getting used to the whole lean and really planning your lean ahead of time, to hit the apex of the corner. It's a lot easier to drive a car and get it to that apex versus riding a motorcycle and making sure you lean at the right angle to get to the apex and back out to maximize your speed through the corners. So that really, again, I talked about the steep learning curve. It has a very steep learning curve, for me at least, compared to driving the car racing stuff. Now to the gameplay and fun factor to kind of start wrapping things up here. Overall, for what it is, I enjoy Ride. There's a lot of variety in the racing, some of it fun, some of it a little boring. Would have liked to see another mode, maybe a licensing or something like that. But with the steep learning curve to ride the bikes with all the assists off and the AI level maxed out, it's really challenging. There's lots of bikes to choose from, and then you can do the elite trophy races to win another handful of bikes. There's the World Tour racing, online, customizing your bike, rider, gear. It honestly makes for a lot of long-term playability, in my opinion. Now I'm going to close things up and give you my comparison to one of my all-time favorites, Tourist Trophy. And, I got to say, these developers have come a long way in that 10 years. And Tourist Trophy was one of my favorite games for the time, especially since I was riding at that time. That's when I had my bike. And, made by the developers of Gran Turismo. As far as I know, Tourist Trophy and Ride are the only games like a Forza or Gran Turismo where you can customize your bike and your rider and progress the way you can. So again, I had a lot of fun with it. Does it surpass its predecessor, Tourist Trophy? I'd say by far. When I played Tourist Trophy and captured this footage that you see here, I honestly had a lot of fun with it. I had a hard time putting it down just because I missed playing it. It had been a long time. I still had the memory card, so I still had all the bikes that I had purchased or won. And, from the physics to the graphics to the sounds and overall playability, Ride and the PlayStation 4 have come definitely a long way. Quick fun fact for you, there was a handful of games that played in 1080i resolution on the PS2, and there was only 4. And Tourist Trophy was one of them. So this footage you see of me playing it here was in 1080i. One of the other ones was Gran Turismo 4. So If you didn't know that, and you needed a special cable and you needed to change it within game to that resolution, but just so you know, you can do that on the PS2 with a couple games. So, would I recommend Ride? Yeah, if you're looking for a game like Tourist Trophy, that offers the customization and that kind of stuff, I would definitely purchase it. I enjoyed it. I would think it's worth the purchase if you're looking for this type of game with motorcycles and, again, the customization. And then, again, there's a lot of long-term playability. You can race online, start where I'm at, like on the medium. I was running semi-pro, by the way, as far as my assists go. I didn't run with joint brakes. I turned the braking assists off. I did automatic tuck. I would mess with the wheelie setting depending on the type of bike I rode. Semi-automatic transmission, I didn't really do any shifting. Sometimes once in a while I downshift or upshift. So anyway, I mean, if you really want to get some long-term playability, start around where I'm at or maybe even lower on the assist scale and then work your way up to full hardcore, and then as you progress through the bikes they just continue to get harder. So, and then you can ramp up the AI as well. So I'd give it a thumbs up. I really enjoyed it, and thanks to Milestone for sending me Ride for the PS4. I hope you enjoyed my review of it. Thank you so much for watching. That's going to wrap things up. I'm Darin Ganji for Inside Sim Racing. See you guys next time.